What's up, cats? Due to COVID guidelines, we're not able to have a full-on assembly this year, so we're going to have a virtual one instead. We're going to be talking to our staff here that are veterans in order to honor them for Veterans Day.
So what's your name, what branch of the military did you serve in, and how long were you in the military?
My name is Robert Znak. I joined the United States Army Reserves, and I joined in 2008.
My name is Brian Tawney. I teach special ed math and co-teach general ed math. And I was in the service for United States Navy for 6 years.
So Brian Ferguson, assistant principal at Mount Si. I served in the U.S. Army from 1997 to 2000.
What do you think is the most important thing students need to know about military service?
I think there's a few things. The number one thing is that you should not just watch movies and TV shows and play video games and think that that is an accurate depiction of what being in the military is like. The jobs that are generally shown in movies and TV shows and video games are usually just a very, very small percentage of the actual jobs and things people do in the military. So that would probably be the number one thing.
Students need to recognize that there's just a lot of opportunities in the military, whether that's working in law enforcement, whether that's working in the medical field. Basically, every single occupation that is out there is represented in the military as well. Also recognize that there's a whole lot of sacrifice that people go through with military service, time away from their families, time in battle, those kinds of things. So it's not necessarily for everybody, but I do believe that everybody should take a look at the military and see their options. It's always been great for me. We get tons of freebies on Veterans Day. There's a lot of perks. Even buying a home, you can get a VA loan, which comes with a lot of different perks. And I actually am part of an organization where I get free tickets to concerts, which is awesome as a veteran. But that's not necessarily everybody. Think about our Vietnam veterans, for example. They were ridiculed and spit on when they returned from war. And so not all veterans have felt that, but certainly think that we're doing a great job as a society, and I think that we just need to keep that up.
What can young people do to show respect and honor those who have served?
I feel like many people try, but they don't know what to say. So a lot of people fall back on that default, thank you for your service thing. But, it can get a little old, over and over and over and over and over again. I feel like the best way to appreciate vets as a society, as an American society, would be number one, to pay them better. Because, and I don't know if you guys have seen the military pay chart, but it's not fantastic. But the biggest thing is, as a society, I think we need to make sure that we're taking care of veterans after they leave service. And I'm not trying to, that's not a jab at anybody. That's not a jab at the VA. I think they do a great job. I just think we could always be looking for ways to do a little bit better.
Boy, I think the easiest, it's very interesting because we always celebrate Veterans Day, but we never celebrate Memorial Day. And then on our Veterans Day, we kind of always talk about Memorial Day, if that makes sense. Like we always talk about the ones who gave the ultimate price. Mm-hmm. I know that for me, the thing I always find is use the freedoms that you're given. Like enjoy your time. Saying thanks is enough. Like there's not a special thing you need to do or anything like that. Like realistically, you don't even have to say thanks, but use the freedoms that you have in a constructive way and a positive way. Like at this point in my life, my whole goal is leave the world better than I found it. I think if everybody kind of had a little piece of that attitude, we'd be a lot better off. So
I think number one, just recognizing the people that have served. If you see them with like a veteran hat or something along those lines, just thank them for their service. Ask them about their service. Ask them about when they served and where they served. I think that gives us as veterans an opportunity just to kind of talk a little bit about a piece of our history that has really formed us as individuals. But there have been a lot of people that have put in a lot of, traumatic experiences and a lot of hard time in battles and things like that. I think it's just really good to just recognize them and just say thank you.
I mean, I guess the generic answer is because they deserve it. But one of the things that I wanted to say about that is honor people in the way they want to be honored, because most of my military friends, most of my Army buddies don't want a parade, and they don't want to be on camera talking to people like I'm doing right now, and they don't want a cake with an American flag on it. I mean, it's very nice when you do stuff like that, but like that's not what people are looking for mostly. Some people love that stuff, and if you have a veteran in your life that wants a parade and a cake with an American flag on it, then by all means do that for them. But some people just want peace and quiet, and they just want to have a nice day off, and they don't necessarily want to be the center of attention or something like that. So,
veterans, they put in a lot of time and sacrifice. Some are career, meaning they spend 20 years, even possibly more time. I only spent 3 years in the military, so my military service was rather small. However, there's a lot of sacrifice that goes behind that, especially thinking about wartime veterans, veterans that have really been on the face of battle. There's a lot of trauma that people go through. One of my good friends, he actually was blown up by an IED in Afghanistan, and fortunately he's living a happy and healthy life now, but that obviously took a lot of time in rehabilitation, things like that. Another friend of mine, he had another IED, turned over, he just had his leg amputated after being out for over 10 years. So there's a lot of sacrifice that goes on, and the other thing too is just the trauma that people see, the trauma that they endure within like battle and things like that. But at the end of the day, veterans put in a lot of time and a lot of effort to really secure our country, to keep us safe. And I think that that's an admirable thing.
I made a little list here. I got all these questions in advance. The number one thing is if you don't know what to say, just don't say anything. Just be quiet, don't say anything. And I'm not saying that to be rude or anything. It's one of those situations where unless you're confident and you know what to say, you probably should stay quiet. But the good news is I'm going to tell you right now, like what you can say and like things that you can say if you do feel comfortable. Asking open-ended questions of veterans, asking them what job they had in the military is a big deal, because that's acknowledging that not everybody in the military is in the infantry. Not everybody kicks down doors and pulls triggers. Like, there's a lot of different jobs and responsibilities and stuff. If you feel any kind of a resistance, if you start to talk to a veteran and you can tell that they're uncomfortable or they don't really want to be talking, then I'd say just, politely say have a nice day and, go on about your business. Don't keep pushing somebody if they very obviously don't want to talk. Only go out of your way if you truly, truly care, not because you feel obligated or anything like that. It's very, very easy to pick out fake people, to pick out people that are only asking you something because they feel obligated to ask or that kind of a thing. And I think the biggest thing is avoiding no-go questions or things that you should never ask any human, not even just a veteran, but like you should never ask any human.
Could you give us a couple examples of those so students know what not
Yeah,
to ask?
absolutely. So a few of the no-go questions that you should never ask a veteran unless you have a deep, deep personal relationship with that veteran and they trust you and you trust them, and there's been a lot of communication beforehand. You should never ask about combat experience. You should never ask about whether or not that person's had friends get injured or killed. You should never ask if that veteran has ever harmed anyone or killed anyone. Those are just no-go questions. Unless, like I said, it's in the right environment. Usually what that means, right environment means private, one-on-one, or a very small group. Most people, most veterans don't want to answer questions like that in front of people they're not comfortable with or at all. So just be very delicate with those kind of questions. And if you're not sure, definitely don't do it.
Thank you to all our veteran staff here for talking to us about Veterans Day and the community at large. Once again, thank you for your service.
world would not be the same. Few people laughed. Few people cried. Most people were silent. I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." I suppose we all thought that one way or another.
War. It is constantly evolving. New weapons are manufactured, tactics invented. But there is one aspect of war that remains constant: the veterans. They continue to display honor, courage, and loyalty in the face of a changing battlefield. Many countries spend a great deal of energy to show their support and honor for the men and women that serve them. However, is that appreciation changing? Is the connection between veteran and civilian becoming more and more muddled? And maybe there exists some sort of disconnect between veterans and civilians that is causing this ambivalence.
My name is Robert Patterson. I served in World War II for about 2.5 years. I also was in the Korean War. It was a different situation in those days than it is now. In World War II, we all felt it was the right thing and we all wanted to serve, and this was general throughout the population. And of course, our commitment was supported, where in more recent wars, this has not been true. I think of Vietnam especially, but even now in Iraq and Afghanistan, that the service of troops is not as much appreciated or even recognized what they have to do and what happens to them in a war, and they're not respected as we were then.
My name's Tom Sidnor. I served in the United States Navy, was commissioned as a junior officer in May of 1994 and served for 5 years. Part of the military is you lose choice. you are told what to do in a lot of circumstances, and I think we understand that to an extent when you do serve. There's a job to do. You trust that your country, those leaders above you, are doing the right thing, and you're there to execute for a greater good, is sort of what you think about. The night before an underway, or the early morning, when 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, you're dropped off at the submarine, and you're kissing your wife and your kid goodbye. For 10 weeks, you're just not going to see it, and it just sucks. And that was probably the hardest thing that we had to do in serving.
So, is there a disconnect between society and veterans today that has not always existed? Maybe it isn't that the public doesn't appreciate veterans. Society recognizes that veterans give up many of the freedoms enjoyed in civilian life in order to preserve those very freedoms for everyone else. It is also recognized that veterans have an exceptional amount of honor and loyalty for what they believe in. However, we must ensure that the wars we are fighting today have enough meaning to be fought by these valuable men and women. Because if it is the veterans' job to protect us, shouldn't it be our job to protect them?
What if the storm ends and I don't see you? As you are now, ever again.